He had me pinned down and was choking me so hard I started blacking out. And the only thing I could think was that this was how I was gonna die.
My name is Ava Rodriguez. I'm 28 now, and I was in escort work for about 2.5 years. Looking back, it's crazy how normal everything felt before it all shifted. I grew up in Miami in a regular Latino household. My dad was always on construction sites, coming home tired with dust in his hair, and my mom worked at a beauty salon doing nails and blowouts. I was the girl who couldn't sit still. From the time I was little, I was dancing. In the living room, at family parties, wherever there was music. In high school, I did every dance team and choreography class they had. I really believed I was going to make it, like be in music videos or touring with some artist. I had the energy for it. After my parents split when I was 17, things got messy at home. My mom started drinking a lot more and money got tight. I saw how stressed she was, always worrying about bills. I promised myself I wasn't going to end up stuck like that. I wanted my own place, my own money, to not have to ask anybody for anything. That fear of being broke and trapped stuck with me. Right after I turned 18, I started dancing at clubs. First it was go-go, then I moved into stripping at this popular spot downtown. The music was loud, the lights were crazy, and the tips were good. Some nights really good. I loved the dancing part. I felt powerful on stage, like all eyes were on me and I was in control. I had this group of girls I worked with, and my best friend Jessica was right there with me. We'd get ready together, laugh about the weird customers, grab food after closing, that kind of thing. She was the one person who really got it. I was dating this guy for a while back then too. At first he seemed cool, but he had a way of making little comments that chipped away at me. "You're too much," he'd say, or "Why you always gotta be the center of attention?" Stuff like that. I stayed longer than I should have because I didn't want to be alone. Eventually I ended it, but it left me feeling smaller than I wanted to admit. Most nights after work, I'd count my cash, buy new outfits, go out with the girls, maybe get my nails done. I was blowing through money fast. Rent, clothes, car payments, partying. I told myself it was fine because I was young and making it. I had my own apartment by 21, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd wake up late, go to the gym sometimes, practice new routines in my living room, then head back to the club. It felt like a life. Not perfect, but mine. There were moments, though, quiet ones, where I'd wonder if this was all there was. Coming home at 5 a.m. with my feet hurting, smelling like smoke and perfume, counting out crumpled bills, or seeing my mom struggle and promising myself I'd help her more once I got ahead. But I pushed those thoughts away. I was independent, I was dancing, I was surviving Miami on my own terms. I thought I had it figured out. I had no idea how fast that could change. Things didn't fall apart all at once. It was more like little pieces started slipping and I kept thinking I could catch them. The club was still packed most nights, but the money wasn't feeling the same. Some weeks the good tippers didn't show, or management started taking a bigger cut. I'd finish a shift with less than I expected, and then remember my car note was due or the rent had gone up again. Miami's not cheap, and everything adds up fast. I started picking up extra shifts just to stay ahead, which meant I was sleeping even less. My mom's situation got worse too. She'd call me at weird hours, sometimes crying about the bills, other times sounding like she'd had a few too many. I found out she had gambling debts piling up, lottery tickets, online stuff, I don't even know what all. I helped when I could, sent her money here and there, but it felt like pouring water into a bucket with holes in it. Every time I did it, I'd get this tight feeling in my chest, like I was watching my own future if I wasn't careful. I was tired all the time. My back started hurting from the heels and the pole work. Some mornings I could barely get out of bed. I'd look in the mirror and see the exhaustion in my face, no matter how much makeup I put on. Dancing still felt good in the moment, but the recovery took longer and longer. Jessica and I would sit in the dressing room after closing, counting our money and complaining about the same old shit. She seemed to be handling it better than me, or at least that's what I thought. My social life kind of disappeared outside the club. The friends who didn't dance didn't really get my schedule, and the ones who did were living the same chaotic life. Relationships, forget it. After my ex, I tried seeing a couple guys, but it always ended the same. They wanted the fun party version of me, but got annoyed when I was too exhausted to keep up. I started feeling really alone, even when the club was full of people. Then came the unexpected stuff. My car needed new tires. The air conditioning in my apartment broke during a heat wave, and the repair guy quoted me way more than I had. Little things that used to be manageable suddenly weren't. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, doing math in my head, trying to figure out how to stretch the next paycheck. I told myself it was just a rough patch, that I just needed 1 or 2 really good months and I'd get back on track. I was only 22, turning 23 soon. I still thought I had time to fix everything, but deep down I could feel it. The control I thought I had was starting to slip through my fingers, and I didn't know how to stop it. I was scared of ending up exactly like my mom, stuck, broke, and watching my dreams fade. That fear kept me going, but it was also wearing me down. I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. I kept telling myself I could handle it. I picked up even more shifts, cut back on everything I could, sold some clothes and shoes online. I asked my manager for better nights, but the schedule was already tight. The back pain got worse, and some nights I was limping to my car after close. Bills kept coming, though, and my mom called more often, her voice sounding smaller each time. I started skipping meals just to make rent. That's when the panic really set in. Jessica noticed. We were in the dressing room one night, feet throbbing, makeup half gone, and she just came out with it. She'd been doing Escort for a while by then. She told me straight up, "Ava, why are you killing yourself on stage for $300 a night when you could make $1,500 to $3,000 in one dinner?" I laughed at first, told her she was crazy. I said I wasn't that kind of girl. That dancing was different. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. I lay there doing the math over and over. If I could just do a few of those and save the money, I could get ahead. Pay off my debt, help my mom, maybe even put something down on a better place. I could still control it. It would be my choice, my rules. For weeks I fought it. I tried applying for other jobs during the day, waitressing, retail, anything. Nothing paid enough to match what I needed, and most of them wanted daytime hours that would kill my club money. I even thought about moving back in with family for a bit, but the thought of going backwards like that made me sick. I was supposed to be the one who made it out. The fear kept growing. I kept picturing myself at 30, still broke, still stuck, turning into my mom. That scared me more than anything. Jessica kept bringing it up casually, like it was no big deal. She said a lot of girls did it for a short time, made their money, and got out. She made it sound simple, safe even. I resisted for as long as I could. But one night, after a really bad shift where I made next to nothing and my landlord left another notice on my door, I called Jessica. My hands were shaking. I told her I wasn't promising anything, but maybe I could just try it once, see what it was like, just to get some breathing room. She told me she'd set something up, and I said yes. That was it. One word, and everything changed. Jessica texted me the address around 7 p.m. It was a hotel near Brickell, one of those tall glass ones with the valet out front. I wore a simple black dress and heels I already owned from the club. My hands kept shaking while I drove. I parked a couple blocks away and walked the rest of the way so nobody would see my car. The lobby smelled like expensive perfume and clean floors. I told the front desk my name like Jessica said, and the guy just nodded and pointed me toward the elevators. Room 142. The hallway was quiet, thick carpet, soft lights. I stood outside the door for almost a full minute before I knocked. He opened it right away. Older guy, maybe mid-40s, nice shirt, no tie. He smiled and said, "You must be Ava. Come in." His voice was calm, almost bored. The room was big. King bed, city view, a bottle of wine already open on the table. He offered me a glass. I took it, but barely sipped. We sat on the couch. He asked about my day, if traffic was bad, regular stuff. I answered with short sentences. He told me he was in town for work, something with finance. I nodded like I understood. There were long silences where I just stared at the carpet. He finally said, "Jessica explained everything, right? Dinner's not necessary tonight. We can just relax." He stood up and walked toward the bed. I followed because I didn't know what else to do. I told myself it was the same as the stage, just without the lights and the music. I kept my eyes on a spot on the wall most of the time. When it was over, he got up first, went into the bathroom, came back with an envelope. He handed it to me like it was nothing. "You did fine," he said. "Text Jessica if you want to do this again." I counted the money in the elevator going down. $1,500, more than I made in 3 or 4 good nights at the club. My legs felt strange walking through the lobby. Outside the air was warm and sticky. I walked back to my car, sat in the driver's seat with the doors locked, and just stared at the dashboard for a while. I drove home with the radio off. The whole ride, I kept thinking how quiet everything felt. Like the city was still the same, but something inside me had already shifted, and I couldn't put it back. The first few months after that night were like nothing I'd ever experienced. The money hit different. I paid off my car note in one go, caught up on rent, sent my mom enough to cover her biggest debts. Suddenly I had breathing room and it felt incredible. I started taking better bookings. Jessica knew people and she looked out for me. One client took me to this rooftop restaurant in South Beach where the steak cost more than my old weekly grocery bill. Another flew me to New York for the weekend. Business class, my first time. I remember looking out the window at the clouds thinking, holy shit, this is really happening. The gifts started coming too. Designer bags, shoes I'd only seen in magazines, a gold bracelet from a guy who said it reminded him of my smile. I bought myself a nicer apartment in a better building with a doorman and a gym I never used. My closet filled up with clothes that made me look like I belonged in those hotels. There were moments that made my head spin. One guy paid me just to sit in his suite and listen to him talk about his divorce for 3 hours. No touching. He ordered room service, lobster, champagne, and tipped me extra because I didn't interrupt. Another client flew me to Miami Beach for a private yacht thing. I stood there in a dress he bought me, holding a glass of something expensive, watching rich people laugh like the world was theirs. I kept thinking, I can't believe this is my life now, but it wasn't all glamorous. There were nights I felt completely out of place. I'd overhear conversations about millions of dollars moving around, people casually mentioning politicians or celebrities like they were regular friends. One man told me details about his company that probably should have stayed secret. I smiled and nodded like I understood. I started crossing little lines without even noticing, staying longer than I planned, answering texts at 2 a.m., pretending I was fine when a client got a little too rough or said something that made my skin crawl. I told myself it was part of the game. I was in control. This was temporary. I was just stacking money so I could get out later. My old club life faded fast. I barely danced anymore. Jessica and I still talked, but our conversations changed. She'd laugh when I told her about the weird requests, like the guy who wanted me to read poetry out loud before anything else. I laughed too. It all started feeling normal, which was the scariest part. By the end of that first year, I wasn't living two lives anymore. The hotels, the money, the secrecy, it was just my life. I'd look at my bank account, touch the nice things in my apartment, and think I'd finally made it. I had no idea how much it was costing me. I just knew I wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. The second year is when things really started shifting, but I didn't see it happening at the time. It was all so gradual. At first, the bookings were still mostly okay. Some guys were actually nice. One regular client, a businessman from Chicago, would order me breakfast in the morning and talk about his kids. He paid well and never got weird. I started looking forward to his trips because it felt almost like a normal date. But then there were the others. One guy in a penthouse suite wanted me to pretend I was his assistant taking notes while he made business calls. I sat there in lingerie with a notepad, listening to him negotiate million-dollar deals like I wasn't even in the room. Another time, a client got mad because I checked my phone. He didn't yell, but the way he looked at me made me delete every message the second I left the hotel from then on. I learned fast. I got really good at reading people in the first 30 seconds. The smile, the handshake, the tone of voice. I could usually tell if the night was going to be easy or if I needed to be careful. I started using different names depending on the city. Ava became Sophia in Orlando, Lauren in Atlanta. I had fake stories ready about what I did for work. Event planning, marketing consultant. The lies came out so smooth I barely had to think about them anymore. My real life got smaller and smaller. I missed my cousin's baby shower, skipped Thanksgiving at my mom's because I had a weekend booking in New York. I'd sleep all day and wake up when the sun was going down. My old friends from the club stopped texting as much. Jessica was still around, but even we drifted. She was deeper in the life than me and seemed fine with it. I told myself I was different. The parties were where it got unpredictable. The first closed one I went to was in a big house on the water. Lots of girls, lots of rich guys. Everyone was drinking. At some point, things got messy. A couple of the men got rough. One slapped me hard across the face when I tried to pull away. They laughed like it was a game. I left with bruises and an envelope that felt heavier than usual. I told myself it was just one bad night. I iced my face and stayed in for a week. After that, I started carrying pepper spray in my bag, even though I knew I probably wouldn't use it. My body started changing. My back pain never really went away. I got headaches from the late nights and the constant pretending. I'd look in the mirror some mornings and not recognize the girl staring back. The expensive clothes, the perfect makeup, the empty eyes. I stopped dancing completely. The pole work hurt too much, and honestly, the club felt too real compared to the hotels. Money kept coming, but it stopped feeling like freedom. I paid for nicer things, but I was always waiting for the next text, the next trip, the next envelope. I'd delete my call history every single night. I memorized hotel layouts without thinking, where the exits were, which elevators were faster. When a client canceled, I felt this rush of relief that scared me because it meant I was getting used to dreading the work. There were quiet moments that stuck with me. Sitting in first class on a flight back from Chicago, drinking champagne, wondering what my old dance teachers would think if they saw me now, or waking up in a beautiful suite alone after the client left early, staring at the ceiling and realizing I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a conversation that wasn't paid for. By the time I was 25, almost 26, the life had swallowed everything else. Normal felt like a word I didn't understand anymore. I'd go days without knowing what day of the week it was. My mom would ask what I was up to, and I'd give her the usual vague answers. The secrets felt normal. The numbness felt normal. Checking my bank account and seeing the balance felt normal. I remember one night after a long weekend in Miami, sitting on my couch in my nice apartment with all my nice things around me. I had just finished counting cash from the last 3 bookings. I should have felt proud. Instead, I just felt tired in a way that went deeper than sleep. I looked around and thought, this is my life now. This is just what it is. And I didn't even cry. I just put the money away, set my alarm for the next client, and went to bed. It was a regular midweek booking. Same hotel chain I always used near downtown. Jessica had set it up through the usual guy. Client said he was in town for a conference. Nothing special in the messages. I got there around 9, checked in under the fake name, went up to the room. He opened the door smiling. Late 30s, clean-cut, expensive watch. Offered me a drink right away. I took it because that's what you do. We sat on the couch talking about nothing. The weather, the city, how busy his week had been. He seemed calm. Too calm maybe, but I told myself I was just tired. After a while, he stood up and said he wanted to move to the bed. I followed. Everything started normal enough. Then his hands went to my neck. At first, it felt like he was just holding me. I said something like, hey, not so hard, but he didn't answer. The pressure got worse. I tried to push his arms away. He leaned in heavier. My vision started going dark at the edges. I remember the sound of my own breathing getting thin. I clawed at his wrists. He still didn't stop. Somehow, I got a knee up and shoved hard enough that he lost his balance for a second. I rolled off the bed, hit the floor, and scrambled for the door. My dress was half off. I didn't care. I yanked it up as best I could and ran into the hallway barefoot. The carpet felt rough under my feet. I kept looking back, expecting him to come after me. He didn't. I found the stairwell and went down 2 floors before I stopped shaking enough to think. My neck already hurt. I could feel the marks forming. I walked the rest of the way to the lobby with my arms crossed tight across my chest. The front desk guy glanced up and then looked away like he saw this kind of thing all the time. Outside, the night air hit me hard. Cars were still moving. People were laughing on the sidewalk. A couple walked past holding hands like nothing in the world was wrong. I didn't go to my car. I just started walking. I ended up at a 24-hour pharmacy a few blocks over, bought a cheap hoodie and some water, and sat on the curb until my hands stopped trembling. Then I pulled out my phone and searched for the first number that came up for a women's shelter. The woman who answered asked if I was safe. I told her I didn't know. She gave me an address and said someone would be waiting. I took a taxi there. The whole ride, the driver talked about the traffic like it was any other night. When I walked through the shelter door, the volunteer at the desk looked at the marks on my neck and just said, "Come sit down." That was the first time in years I let someone else decide what happened next. I knew right then I couldn't go back. Not to another hotel, not to another booking, not to any of it. I thought once I ran out of that hotel room, everything would get better. It didn't. Leaving was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I failed at it more than once. The shelter worker, her name was Carla, let me stay for almost 3 weeks. She helped me get a new phone number and made sure the hospital documented the bruises on my neck. I kept looking over my shoulder every time I left the building. Jessica texted me a few times asking where I was. I didn't answer. Then one of the guys who worked with her called from a different number saying I owed them for introductions. I changed numbers again. I tried going back to dancing once. Lasted 2 shifts before my back gave out, and the panic hit so bad I had to leave mid-set. The club felt like a trap now. I moved to a cheaper place on the other side of Miami. Took a waitressing job at a small Cuban cafe near the beach. The pay was nothing compared to what I used to make, but nobody touched me and nobody expected anything after the shift ended. The first year was brutal. Nightmares where hands were around my throat. I'd wake up gasping, checking the locks on my door 3 or 4 times. I couldn't look in mirrors for a long time. My own body felt like it belonged to somebody else. I went to a support group for women who had been in the life. Listening to other girls' stories helped some days and made it worse on others. Therapy was slow. I'd sit there and just cry sometimes because I didn't know how to explain what I'd done and why. I lost almost everyone. Jessica reached out once more, saying I was making a mistake, that I'd be broke again in 6 months. I blocked her. That one hurt the most. She was the person I trusted most for years, and I still can't forgive her for pulling me in. My mom knew something was wrong, but I never told her the whole truth. I just said I was done with the clubs. She was proud, I guess, but I felt like a liar. Money was tight for a long time. I worked doubles, ate a lot of rice and beans, learned how to stretch every dollar. Normal life felt foreign. I didn't know how to have conversations that weren't transactional. Dates were impossible. The few times I tried, I'd freeze up or get distant. I still check hotel exits when I walk past them, still delete my messages out of habit. Now I'm 28. I work at the same little cafe 5 days a week. My back still aches when I stand too long and my mind still goes dark some nights. I live quietly. Small apartment, few friends. I don't go out much. I'm scared of men, scared of my own reflection sometimes, scared of what people would think if they knew. Some things got better. I can sleep through most nights now. I smile at regular customers and mean it. I've started dancing alone in my living room again. Just for me, no heels, no lights. It feels like coming home to a younger version of myself. But other parts never healed. I still carry this shame that creeps up when I least expect it. I still regret believing that crossing from the stage to the room was just a small step. I moved from the stage to the room thinking I'd get richer, but I just became meat for those who pay more, and I'm still trying to forgive the girl who thought that was a good trade.